Acclaimed actor Frank Opperman explores the role of a modern priest in society in the new film Dominee Tienie. The story is of a priest that needs to adopt to a more modern way of serving his congregant in order to increase the number of people that attend church. Will he be able to provide guidance to his congregation in this new era? Well, actor Frank Opperman joins us now in studio to tell us more. Frank, thank you so much for coming to the show this morning.
Thank you, and I'm so pleased I could put on my jacket, because listening to the weather, it's not going to be possible to wear a jacket again the rest of the day. So this is the last time to see me grand, yes. Good
and
morning.
Grand you are. Thank you so much. Now, this film or this movie explores a subject that is very close to South African hearts for many reasons. The church, the role of the church in South Africa is held in very high regard. But over the years, and I think with young people, we see a decline in church attendance. Why was it important for the story to be told?
I think it's about somebody who realizes you've got to change. If you want to keep on existing, you've got to change. You can't stay the same. And it's sometimes very difficult to change. And I think in churches, one finds sometimes they get stuck in old dogma and they don't want to change. And this is a story about a pastor who realizes he's got to change, and he's got people from his congregation who are fighting back, and it's just this personal, it's kind of a small story about a small little congregation, but it's actually part of a much bigger story about change, and we got to change. That's I think what it's about.
Indeed. And I think people get so attached to their different places of worship, to their churches, to their pastors, and to the old ideals that you talk about. And sometimes when something new comes along, it may come across as insensitive. How were you able to tell the story, bearing in mind the sensitivity of the audiences that you are telling the story to?
I think sometimes everybody thinks they know what that truth is. Sometimes if you go for something really truthful, which I think in this movie it kind of tackles the issue, especially with the Afrikaans churches. We come with a whole lot of baggage that came with us, where it's been very closed. It's been a very closed kind of environment. You close these big church doors and the church happens inside. I think what this is trying to do is to say the doors must be opened, and church is actually something that happens outside the church. Not sitting praying about things the whole time. You've got to go out there and do something about it. Am I sounding clever this morning?
That's because you are clever.
No. But I think it's trying to deal with that kind of issue. Come on, get out behind those closed walls. The church and life is out there. Go out there. That's when you're making a change or affecting people's lives, not just sitting praying behind closed doors.
I absolutely agree with that point. Now, you know, people in these times tend to consult outside sources for things that they may be going through. There are therapists, there are counselors, there is wellness at work. So people don't necessarily fall back solely on the church as their only source of support. Do you think in these modern times that the role of the church is still important and that it still has a role to play?
I would admit I'm not a one that goes to church all the time. I don't do that. But I do it around doing this thing, this story, as a one-man theatre piece. And I did 260 shows of them. And about 200 of them were done in churches, doing a play from the pulpit. It's a dominee with a blue eye and a plaster, and you wonder what happened to this guy. And I could sense that people need a church. It still plays a major role in society. The aged that are sitting there, it still plays a part in the community. It must just be managed right, and it mustn't be an exclusive thing. And like I said just now, the Afrikaans churches have been going through changes. Like, for example, the gay issue in the NG Church, then they're allowed in, then they're not allowed to be part of the church. I mean, they're still bouncing around, but there's still a lot of issues that the church will still have to confront in the future. So it's an ongoing thing that changes all the time.
Now, you're not a religious churchgoer, as you've said, but you've managed to observe, just in your own community, in your own upbringing, I suppose, just what the role of the church is and how pastors would conduct themselves. So coming into this role where you have to play Dominee, how did that challenge you on a personal level?
I could go back into the past. We all got brought up in the church. We got caned if you didn't go to church. Where the church kind of lost me, if I can share this. I was in the army. We all had to go to the army. For 2 years you were called up, and I was in a place called Bethlehem, the engineer corps. But there, the NG church, which I was part of, was on the army base. Now, I can remember these tired guys sitting there, kind of falling asleep on a Sunday morning in the church, and next moment a hand would come and smack you on the head. Wake up. Now, it was different to what people... so I became a Methodist, because then you could go into town, and there were these lovely Engelse tannies that would give you tea and cook, and have sympathy for you not wanting to be there. And there was a Dagwood place that sold Dagwoods. It was like a thing with like a patty and an egg and cheese and the whole thing. You could buy that. So I ended up becoming a Methodist so that I could buy a Dagwood on Sunday mornings and not get smacked on the head at on the military base in Bethlehem.
Very quickly, just before we run out of time, I mean, working with director and co-writer Silas Deyaga and the cast, I mean, he's a very experienced director. He's been in this industry for quite a while. What was that like being on set and bringing the story to life?
It was so wonderful. From something that was a one-man show where you tour all by yourself. I've got an assistant that travels with me, but it's just the two of us. So to suddenly spread the thing, and there's new characters involved, and the story becomes bigger, that was great, not to have that whole burden on oneself. And there was an excellent cast. Henrietta Gryvenberg, a lot of people... it was a great experience, and I hope that some of the thoughts in the movie would rub off on people that do go and watch it. It's not a heavy religious movie. It's about a character. He could have been a plumber as well that goes through change.
Oh, fantastic. Frank Opperman, or
thank you very
Dominee
much.
Tienie, bid asseblief vir my.
Ek sal vir jou bid en bid asseblief vir my. We have to pray for each other.
Indeed.
We can't just pray for ourselves
Indeed.
anymore.
Thank you so much for making time to
Thank
come
you
on
very
this
much
show.
for having
Just
me.
spoke to acclaimed actor Frank Opperman on the new film Dominee Tienie. The film was released nationally yesterday. Make sure you go and see it.